Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of Apple TV's Ted Lasso, entitled Headspace. Surprise, surprise, right? I said this video would be late. It turns out the weekend plans that I had are still going on, but they're actually starting later today, being Friday the 3rd of September. They're actually starting later today than I expected, so I have time to watch this episode and get this video out. So looks like I was only gonna be late on 2 Ted Lasso episodes, and I should be, on time every Friday going forward for the rest of the season, barring anything unexpected, obviously. But here I am on Friday, unexpected, with my thoughts, and I'm glad that I was able to get this one out on the release day, because I have a lot of strong feelings about this episode. I know a lot of you guys have been kind of disappointed in this season, whether it's like the way the plot has moved or the lack of comedy. I don't say lack of comedy, but less comedy, less funny than maybe you would have liked. By and large, I've been satisfied with this season, but there have been issues that I've had throughout that I think really culminated in this episode that are interesting, because I felt like this episode had some really, really great moments, and then it had some really, really bad moments. And moments that are bad within universe, which is a good thing ultimately, right? Like, within the context of the show, if you have a bad moment, that means they did a good job of conveying whatever it is that they wanted to say. But then there are out of universe issues that I have as well. One main one that I think I've had my fill of at this point, and if it keeps doing this, I'm gonna start to come down a little bit harder on the show. But I want to start with the title. It's called Headspace, and I think this is a pretty clear title, right? Everyone's got a lot going on in their heads, right? Ted has his issues. Roy and Keely are having some minor relationship issues that they're trying to figure out. Rebecca is having her issues with whether or not she wants to meet up with Sam. Obviously, she doesn't know it's Sam. And Nate has his headspace issues, which revolve around, I think, his desire to have his dad's approval. His dad's a complete asshole, very indifferent toward him, very rude toward him, and I think that's clearly has affected Nate's demeanor. That's why Nate's so soft-spoken, why he's so timid at times. But now he's found an opportunity, he's found an avenue in which to treat others the way his father has treated him. And we've seen it all season, right? Like, why is Nate being such an asshole now all of a sudden? And we look at that as like, okay, this is something Nate's going to have to work on. And this is something that we're going to probably see unfold throughout the course of the season, where, ultimately he's going to have to get over his issues. It's going to have to start with him dealing with how he feels about his father, and then that can then come through in how he deals with Colin and with I forget the name of the kid that replaced him, but the new equipment manager or whatever that replaced him. This was a bad episode for Nate. Like, at this point, I've crossed over into Nate is just an unlikable character at this point. It went from like, and I don't like that, because Nate was one of the most likable characters last season. And, he was a punching bag. He was very soft-spoken. You feel bad for him, but then ultimately he perseveres, right? So you feel good for Nate, and you'd like to see that underdog win. Nate's treating people so badly that I can't even look at it like the start of the season. It was like, okay, well, Nate's being kind of an asshole. What's up with that? This episode, fuck Nate. Nate was fucking terrible. What he said to Colin was awful. Like, that was unforgettable. And you can't just go offer an apology like, hey, what I said yesterday was uncool. Let's handshake. Fuck you. You don't say some shit like that. He basically called Colin worthless. Like, you're a Holiday Inn painting that covers a blood stain. Like, oh my God. That was a terrible scene. And it's a good scene in the sense that it made me feel so passionately like angry toward Nate. So like the show in universe, that's a good scene. But like, man, like and in universe, like, I hate Nate now. Like, that was a terrible thing to say. And like, it's all revolving around him needing to feel adequate. He's reading these tweets, he's feeling good about himself, and then he reads up one single bad tweet, and then he goes and shits all over that kid again, who inexplicably had the idea to get him this gift, even though Nate's treated him like shit all season. He decides to be a good person, suggests that they get this gift for him, and then Nate snaps on him and crushes and demeans him just because he saw one bad tweet. And again, this all is part of the story, right? You know, they're trying to, you know, really hit home this idea of like how Nate's father's treatment of him is coloring how Nate treats other people. I get it. But fuck, man, like, I don't even like Nate anymore. Like, fuck Nate. Like, I don't even, like, he's such a fucking asshole. Like, I don't even, fuck Nate. And like that, again, good job by the show to get me to feel that way. But man, like, that was tough to watch a character that was so great in season 1 be such an insufferable piece of shit. And like they've done a lot with that. And then another thing I question is how it looked like we were about to turn a corner on Nate, and then he sees the one bad tweet and he's right back to how he was. So now I'm wondering, are they going to drag this shit out too long at this point? Because now we're 7 episodes in. I think it's a 12-episode season. So we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 5 left. I don't know how much time you can spend trying to redeem Nate at this point when he's reaching his peak horribleness in episode 7, and you think he turns a corner and it's like, nope, he's right back to where he was. So, yeah, a lot of stuff with Nate in this episode that I did not care for in universe. Like I said, again, as someone who was critiquing the episode, these were great scenes because they made me feel passionately toward Nate in a very negative way. But yeah, that was some tough stuff to watch, man. And like I said, that apology was insufficient for what he said. The way he treated that kid at the end, like, oh man, I really hated Nate in this episode. So other Headspace things, and this is kind of going to tie into something else that I didn't like about this episode, and this is something that I don't like as a critique of the show itself. So we have a couple of great scenes with Ted and Doc. You know, the first one, his nervous energy trying to talk to her was really sad. I liked how there's a shot where the camera angle is showing that, you know, the little duck that's on her desk that's like, you know, going back and forth. He's looking at it like this. So he's facing this way. The duck is moving like this. So him watching the duck nod looks like him shaking his head no from the camera angle. And I thought that was a really nice shot to where it's like, you know, he's moving along with the duck, but the duck's nodding and he's doing like this. Like, I thought that was a pretty cool shot. And like I said, his nervous energy there was really kind of cringy in a very subtle way. And then the second scene when he snaps on her over the concept of therapy, I thought was really good as well. We haven't seen Ted do that. And he really kind of went in there, and I thought that was a really powerful scene as well. My problem is the third scene. The third scene, he comes in, and now he seems open to discussing the, you know, whatever he's got going on, right? It looks like they're about to have a real conversation. And then they cut from it and go to practice. And I'm fed up. I'm sick of this show skipping over important things that I want to see and that I need to see. You know, I talked about earlier about skipping over the fallout from Sam talking about the you know, his country and turning his back on that one sponsor that his dad shit all over. We didn't see any fallout from that. They didn't show, you know, this what ultimately ended up in like a long tie streak and then them breaking that tie streak. There's wins that they didn't show, like, and those kinds of things I can kind of feel okay skipping over, but I'm still like, man, we're skipping over a lot of shit that's important. This was too far. Like, the start of the episode, we see Ted talking to the doctor and he's like, you know, thanks for helping me through what I was dealing with a couple days ago. I'm like, I wanted to see that. I wanted this episode to open up starting from that closing scene where he's in her office in the dark, you know, looking like a wreck. I wanted us to start there and see how that, you know, that get worked through. But even though that pissed me off, I accepted it because the way the episode seemed to be flowing, it felt like we would get there eventually. So when we get to that third scene with the doctor and it looks like he's about to start opening up and then they cut from it, I'm like, can we stop skipping over important things. Like, that's really pissing me off about this show right now. And I don't know what they think they're doing, but right now I don't know. It's confusing because like there was a moment earlier in the season where they skipped over them getting their first win, and I thought it was a smart move because they made it about Sam's protest rather than about them getting their first win, and for me that was about perspective, so I accepted that. This is important. I want to know what Ted's going through, and I don't like the fact that what I've been saying this whole time is that Ted's dealing with a lot internally. And all he does is give himself to help other people. I want to see Ted get the help that he needs, and they keep fucking skipping over it. And that's really getting on my nerves. Like, I don't know what the goal is here. Because now it feels like they're minimizing the importance of Ted's help. It's enough to show that he's willing to get the help. That's not enough. That's not enough. Like, I want to see that. I don't want to skip over that and just be like, okay, well, I guess he's fine now over whatever it is that he might be upset. No, I want to know what he's upset about. I want to see him open up about it. And that better fucking happen. Next episode or something like that needs to happen. Or that will be a huge indictment on the show for me. To essentially treat him as a character in the show like his pain isn't important enough to discuss. Which is the whole idea, is that he doesn't get that outlet. He's so busy giving himself to others, he doesn't get to have his pain discussed and addressed and treated. And now the showrunners are treating him the same way. Like his actual treatment isn't important enough for us to show. So we're just going to move on to something else. Fuck that. That's not acceptable to me. So that's a huge indictment on this episode. So that really clearly pissed me off. Like, I'm tired of them doing that this season. And I don't recall ever feeling like that during season 1. Like, oh, they're skipping over something I would have liked to have seen. But it seems like every fucking episode, we jump forward a week, months, whatever. And I'm like, well, what happened to all of those things that I would have liked to have seen? Why do we insert this random Christmas episode that, as a standalone episode is fine, but inserted randomly in August during a point where I want to see what's happening with the team? Like, I don't understand why they keep skipping over shit that is important. And I don't understand why they think it's unimportant enough to skip over. And I think it's disrespectful at this point to the character to treat the character the same way the character is treating himself in universe. And that's really, really irritating me. The Roy and Keeley situation was, at first I was a little, thrown off by that, because I'm like, why is Keeley all of a sudden having issues with Roy? Like, they haven't, dropped hints of that. It's like out of nowhere, she's all of a sudden got issues. But she did eventually clarify that it was because they now work together, that there's no separation there. And I'm like, okay, this is valid, right? So she's dealing with that. She's trying to talk it out. They have a couple of good moments where Roy kind of walks in on it, says, "Are you talking about me?" Yeah. And it's like, fuck it, whatever, you ready to go? Like, he doesn't give a shit, right? So then Keeley snaps on him, and he gets pissed off and leaves, responds in kind. And from my perspective, for Roy, that's got to be completely out of left field. He's just being with this woman and enjoying his life, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's jumping on the couch and screaming at him. It's like, where did this come from, right? So Roy kind of gets this come to Jesus moment almost inadvertently from Jamie, where Jamie helps him kind of understand through soccer by accident how he should handle the situation with Keeley. And then he goes and he essentially apologizes for his piece of this. He draws her a bath, roses, all this good shit. I'm going to leave you alone for however he does. He essentially makes up with her. Where's her apology? You don't get to just snap on somebody like that out of nowhere without apologizing. Like, I feel like Keeley should be giving an apology too. Like, sorry for just completely flipping out on you for no reason out of the blue because I chose to keep this issue I have with you to myself for all this time. So now I'm justified in snapping on you out of nowhere? No, fuck that. No, like that. I didn't like that either. So, yeah, just a lot going on. A lot going on here that I think are like things that I'm passionate about in universe that are, as a critic of the show, as somebody who's watching it, I think it's things that the show is doing well because it's eliciting this level of emotion, but the characters in universe are doing some really fucked up stuff to me. The only thing that like I said, that really truly bothers me is how they keep skipping over shit. Like Keely, like the way Keely behaves, as long as it's true to Keely, even if I don't agree with it, that's fine. And the same thing with Nate. At the end of the day, like Nate's behavior makes sense. I just don't like it, but it makes sense, and that's a well-written character. The skipping over shit, that's on the show, and that I don't like. So what was the other thing? Oh, Rebecca. Rebecca and Sam. She hasn't been replying. She hasn't replied to Sam in a couple of days. It's because she's concerned about whether or not meeting up with this person could ruin the enchantment that they have, conversing through the text. And we know that when if they meet, is gonna be a problem. But they don't know yet, and they're kind of making it look like, Rebecca has, every reason to still meet up with Sam, because of course they don't know it's Sam either. So like, yeah, meet up with this guy, and we know it's Sam, and it's like, that's good advice, but it's bad advice. So this episode was a little light on the humor as well. So for those of you who have been like really clamoring for more humor, this episode probably didn't work for you. Ultimately, I do think it's a good episode though, because like I said, it elicited the most emotion from me that any of these episodes have done. But the skipping over things, I'm done with that. Like, that's gotta stop. That has gotta stop. That's pissing me off. So and pissing me off to the degree that like I would ultimately I don't want to say thumbs down the season like it's a bad season, but that would be a huge like that would be a huge indictment on this season for me if they don't hypothetically, I don't think the show would ever do this. I hope not. But if this season ends and I don't see Ted open up about whatever he's dealing with, I will ultimately say fuck this season, because that's too important of a thing. That's too important in universe on Ted for them to say it's not important enough for us to show it on the show. Like I would thumbs down the season if I don't see that at some point. You skip over big wins or win streaks, I'll accept that. You skip over other little things, I'll accept that. But if you skip over showing us Ted dealing with his pain, fuck that. Like I will thumbs down the fuck out of this season if that happens. So I hope they get this shit together with this skipping over important stuff, because I didn't even feel good about skipping over Sam's protest and shit and us seeing no fallout from that. I didn't even agree with that. But again, that's something I'm willing to look over, because in the grand scheme of things, that's like a individual plot point within this small portion of the season that's ultimately not important in the grand scheme of things. But Ted's internal pain is the most important thing on this show right now. It's the most important thing. It needs to be addressed, and they're fucking around with it. Like, oh, we're going to tease it. We're going to, he's kind of going to get there. Oh, and we're going to skip over this. Quit fucking around. Like, treat it with the respect it deserves, and that needs to happen. So, that's all I got on this episode. I didn't plan on getting this fired up, but I care about this show. I enjoy this show. I love watching it. I love watching this show every week, and I love the characters on this show, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. But I'm sitting over here talking about how the disrespect and mistreatment of a fictional character. But they got to get this shit together. On that note, I will see you guys next week for episode 8. Until then, peace.